First name's Donnie, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul, baby. Welcome to the New Life Recovery Show, where we talk about mental health Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 12 noon. If I think better, then I do better. We do push-ups, we walk, we jog, we swim, we play tennis to keep our physical going. This show is about the mental. If I think better, I can do better. There's so many stressors out here. I mean, let's move the drugs and the alcohol and the gambling and the porn and all of those things aside. There's so many stresses that come at us on a regular basis. All people, Black, white, Asian, Latino, everybody. Everybody's got stressors. Sometimes it's people in your own family. Sometimes it's your significant other. Or it's the kids. I got kids, I got grandkids. Bills, neighbors, people in your community, all kinds of stresses. And on this show, it's our honest, sincere attempt to talk about the things that bother us. Put it out there. One of my favorite shows is SEAL Team. God, I've been watching that show. And what I love about SEAL Team is the underlying message that these SEALs, these Navy SEALs, yeah, they go into combat together. But the really interesting part for me is how after they go into war, they come back home and try to be normal. And there are other professions out here like that. Police officers, law enforcement, paramedics and firefighters. They're out here dealing with trauma. You know, people blown up, people shot up, people cut up, people in accidents. They have to debrief themselves and deprogram themselves before they go home and try to be normal. There are other professions that deal with that. Sometimes correctional officers, that's a stressful job. You got to maintain the line at the same time you're dealing with some of the most violent people in the world. Crafty, trying to get you to break a law yourself, and you the CEO. So one of the stresses that I'm personally dealing with, some of you may, in your own way, is the election. What do we think of it? Who do you like? I'm Black. I live in a 9-1 Democratic city, born and raised Democrat. However, if I find a Republican with some decent ideas that leads to progress for my community, you're damn right I'm a supporter. And that would be Ehrlich and Michael Steele. That would have been Hogan and Boyd Rutherford, my dear friend. Boyd Rutherford helped establish the West North Avenue Development Authority. First time ever. On the other side of the aisle, Governor Westmore brought $28 million by way of State Senator Antonio Hayes to further fund that project. And so it's a bipartisan effort. And so I mention this because if you're Black and you're a Democrat in a 9-1 Democratic city, it can be stressful when people expect you to vote strictly Democrat. And we know, let's be honest, the Democrats back in '94 pushed the omnibus crime bill, which further incarcerated an already heavily incarcerated community. America, I've said it once, I've said it a million times, represents 5% of the world's population. Yet we have 25% of the incarcerated people. 38% of those people are Black men. Black women are the fastest growing demographic. Considering that Black people are only 13% of the broader population, yet we are nearly half of the people in prison, speaks to another stressor. And it's all interrelated into politics, which is good old-fashioned American racism. somebody not liking you, somebody disenfranchising you because of the color of your skin. So we're being joined today by a young lady, and I don't know if she knows how special this show is. Princess Williams, how are you?
Good morning, Donnie and Glover. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Good.
Election is coming up.
Yes.
It's
It is.
causing stress for you?
It's scary. These are scary times. I mean, Trump, Kamala, the vice presidential debate just happened. And I have to say, Vance did a pretty good job. So it's tough. But I
That's
know
what
who
the
I'm
word
voting for. So that makes it a little
that's
easier.
what the word is on the street, that Walsh was, on the ropes.
Yeah, boy. It was like they were in the ring boxing it out. But I have to say I do think Vance gave a really good debate. He was prepared, he was quick, he was very quick thinking in his delivery of answering many of those questions. And in comparison, I think that I mean it's this is really going to be an interesting outcome. I'll just leave it at that.
Have you been following the strike, International Longshoremen's Association strike?
Yeah, I have a little bit been following it, and I have to tell you that it's a little scary for me because there's a lot of news circulating that with this strike, it will mean that people will have to stock up on supplies because we rely on, the importation of goods from our ports. And if they're not working, how will those goods get to our grocery stores? How will they get to our homes? So it's
Were,
a big
were,
deal.
were you able to look at the clip from, what's his name? Harold Daggett? Harold Daggett is the clip that I sent you. He's representing the striking International Longshoremen's Association.
I
Yes, no, did you see it?
I didn't get to see the whole thing of it. I got to listen to some of it.
He didn't need much. He's a Trumpster. So I went and covered the port of Baltimore about 2 nights ago. There were black protesters, white protesters, Latino protesters. That's what I saw on the surface. But when I saw this clip of Harold Daggett, one of the things he says, and I must thank Tanya for bringing this to my attention, that this guy goes and says that the longshoremen were out there in the middle of COVID as if they were the only ones dealing with COVID. As if they were dealing with COVID more so than anybody else. I mean, that's the kind of picture that Daggett is painting. He's a millionaire, mind you. But she brought to my attention how healthcare workers were really in the belly of the beast. And her being a dental hygienist, among her vocations, spoke about how they were in the belly of the beast, essentially. You up in people's faces. That there were a lot of other people who were more heavily impacted by COVID than the longshoremen.
Yeah,
I mean, they work outside, they're in a truck. It's not a whole bunch of in your face type stuff, People in motor vehicles are more exposed when you consider the many people that come before them on a daily basis.
right. No, you have a point. What he argues is that the portmen went to work in spite of COVID, in spite of the virus, that they put their lives on risk.
Oh, come on.
And
They're
that,
making
that,
pretty
that-
damn good money down at the port.
yeah, is what
They
he
are not the brokest people in town. They are not minimum wage. They get paid. Everybody know the longshoremen get paid. And this guy's crying. This is a millionaire crying broke.
It's interesting because I do wonder, given, the the collapse of the bridge recently, how many of these families are struggling, how many of the families are being provided for and supported, um, in general, since the bridge collapsed. And I do
Well,
wonder about, I mean, he's just one individual, but what about the other people, the ones that, really are living paycheck to paycheck, um, and are having hard times. I mean, I don't know what those stats look like, but I only know from a personal standpoint that many people during the COVID pandemic put their lives on at risk, which is what you're getting to. Many people put their lives at risk, and
but
many
this
people
guy
went
is
to work
trying
in
to
spite
usurp.
of the pandemic. I mean, I was at home working from home in the remote environment, but it's an interesting what's going on with the port is a very interesting circumstance, and I do believe and see that it will potentially impact our everyday lives in a very powerful way.
And it's stressful
Very
because
stressful.
for me, I don't want to be wrong. I have
Right,
an obligation to present the facts to the people and to the
right,
best of my ability in an unbiased form.
right.
If a Republican is right, I'm gonna say so. Now Trump, he ain't getting no points here because I've watched him as a human being, and he's a despicable human being. He talks about veterans, calls them suckers and losers when he was a draft dodger. He is a convict. That word is thrown around loosely when it comes to our community, but this is a president who has 34 indictments and more to follow, probably.
It's really sad. It's really, really sad when I think about what's going on in politics.
Let
And
me play this clip for you.
yeah, also I have to tell you, I did watch most of it, a majority of it.
We rightfully deserve. These people today don't know what a strike is. When my men hit the streets from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night. Boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back to 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the companies money to pay their salaries. Well, it went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Were you able to hear that?
Oh yeah, I watched most of the clip today.
So here's the thing that gets me.
Mhm.
And I got to, again, really thank Tanya for
Yes.
pointing this out to me.
Yes.
Let me tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Why now?
Yeah, I had that same question.
Today is October the 4th.
Yeah.
Why right now? This guy doesn't sound like he's hungry. Now, when I interviewed Scott Cowan, the president of Local 333, I asked him, so do we need to go rush out and get toilet paper, cans of tuna fish? And he said no. He essentially said no. He said the stuff for Christmas is already here. Why now? And this is an example. This is an example of the stress that the mass media puts out there. And I'm so glad she brought it to my attention. Why now? Why are you talking about this now? Well, because there's an election in a month. Why strike now? You done dealt with the Key Bridge collapse. You've dealt with COVID, and you ain't said a damn thing. And let me tell you what else Scott Cowan, the president of ILA 333, Local 333, said. I asked him, had Governor Moore been there? He said, oh, yes, Governor Moore's been here, and he's been a big help. This didn't sound like someone who's desperate. Because I can bring you up here to 21217 and I can show you desperation. Mm-hmm. I can take you out to Morrell Park, which is mostly white, and I can show you desperation. So those are my thoughts. And I just want people to put their thinking caps on, because I fell for the okie doke at first. Why now? Why would you strike right now? Because it's election time and this clown is friends with Trump and they're trying to paint a picture like, oh, these guys won't work. And I'll tell you one other thing. I'm just throwing Tanya straight under the bus. She said, well, quit. Because we can go get somebody else. There are a bunch of people that want a job working at the port. Quit.
Well, let me share something with you, actually. So CNN published an update this morning at about 12 o'clock a.m.
That the strike is over?
That they've reached a tentative deal increasing wages to $4 per hour raise each year.
See, that wasn't much of a strike.
Tomorrow they will return to work on Friday.
So when you think of the Birmingham bus boycott, mm-hmm. when people gave up catching the bus and started carpooling to work, mm-hmm. that was over a year. This thing lasted all of 5 minutes.
Yeah, and
a ploy.
And it looks like it's a $4 per hour raise for each year of the 6 contracts that they are evaluating. So I guess there was a deal in place, and that deal expired at the end of Monday, and it will be extended into January 15th, and should have the union members back to work by Friday.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with you. This is all politics. This is all an attempt to make President Biden look bad, as if they are not doing enough for the portmen, the hardworking people at the port. But what's interesting is they settled for $4 per hour raise. And, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it is a raise. But is that what they wanted? For all of this talk about a strike, was that the end goal? Is the amount sufficient? Is the amount sufficient for the intended outcome?
This is a strike that goes from Maine straight down the East Coast, mm-hmm. all the way to Texas. This was an organized ploy, and I wish I would have seen through the okie doke. Harold Daggett, striking International Longshoremen Association boss, who meets with Trump. So this was nothing more than a political stunt. And so as this show is about our mental health, any of us can be fooled by the mass media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. If we don't pay attention and read the news, to read what's current, to stay on top of changes that are relevant to what's happening in politics, it's absolutely easy to be misled. And honestly, seriously, I thought at the start of this week that I would have to run to the grocery store to stock up on toilet paper and stock up on
Me too.
All of the cleaning supplies. However, after doing a little homework, I realized that we won't have to do any of that. And it is a good thing that the workers are able to go back to work and that they've reached a tentative deal by Friday. Today,
isn't
which
that
is today,
stressful?
which is today. But still, it's stressful to put people through all of this chaos and the turmoil. And so the question is, was a strike necessary in order to achieve a raise? Like, why do they have to even go on strike? And like you said, why now? Why now? Was it necessary?
So this is
But it got the
Roderica.
attention of Kamala Harris and President Biden, because a change has been implemented, and they will be getting a raise.
Princess, I want you to welcome to the show Roderica Appleway. She is my shero.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to be on.
Thank you.
She's the director of Black Media at the White House. Roderica, we were just listening to this clip by Harold Daggett, and I gotta say, I fell for the okie doke. 2 nights ago, I went down to the Port of Baltimore and covered the local 333. I interviewed the president, Scott Cowan. Now he gave a different spin. As a matter of fact, he was very grateful for Governor Westmore and the support that the governor has given, not just through COVID, but also with the Key Bridge collapse, particularly. But this guy, Harold Daggett, I come to find out, and I gotta thank Tanya. You've heard me reference her before. She showed me this clip of Harold Daggett, the International Longshoremen Association boss, and he painted a rather different picture of this strike. And come to find out, he's friends with Trump. And so I'm mad at myself, Roderica, because I didn't use my critical thinking skills. Why strike now? 30 days before the election. Did that ever come up in your conversations?
Well, as you know, I can't speak to either the election or the personal thoughts of everyone involved in kicking this off in the first place. But what I can say is that even before this strike started, and this is indicative of the really strong relationship that President Biden has had with unions throughout his term, to really, one, get the heads up that this was coming, and two, really start bringing folks to the negotiating table to make sure that we could strike a deal before, economic experts were projecting that this would cost the economy $4.5 billion in losses a day. And so being able to get this handled in basically 48 hours is indicative of the strong relationship that this administration maintains with labor unions, and especially the hard work of both Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and Acting Secretary Julie Su to really make sure that we could get a good deal here that ultimately gets these longshoremen the fair wages and working conditions that they asked for.
Another thing that Daggett said was that the longshoremen were working through COVID as if they were in the belly of the beast. And I've been reminded that you've had other people who were really in the face of COVID, like our healthcare workers, like our dental hygienists, people who work directly, nurses, people who are on the front lines of this battle. And I just feel usurped. And so any thoughts on how to look at these political ploys 30 days before the election? I mean, this show is about our mental health. Princess just talked about the feeling of running out and having to get water or toilet paper.
Yeah, certainly. Well, certainly, but I'm not going to disparage the really important and critical work that these longshoremen do day in, day out to make sure that folks can get the supplies and products that they need. This was actually a really great sticking point for to get this deal struck. President Biden reminded both sides of the table that there's a huge hurricane that just rolled through the Southeast, and a lot of the relief supplies that those regions are going to need are coming through these ports. And so that was one of the sticking points to get this deal across the finish line.
Yeah.
Princess, did you have any questions for Roderica?
Not yet, but I wanted to also add in along the lines of what Roderica is sharing, that I wanted to clarify. So with regard to some of the agreement that was decided on recently, the exact raise is $4 per hour raise for each year of the 6-year contract. And in addition to that, that raise amounts to a first year raise of just over 10% of the current contract's top pay of $39 an hour. So essentially, I guess what they're trying to achieve is with the 5 subsequent pay hikes, this would raise their wages over 62% during the life of the contract. And that is all the information I see so far that was published on CNN. And I think it's very relevant to our conversation with regard to, discussing an outcome and what the agreements were. I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, exactly. And those will amount to kind of record wage raises for these longshoremen. One of the things that the president really wanted to drive home in these negotiations is that, these open carriers, that they have secured record profits for themselves for years now without these longshoremen who are actually doing the work day in and day out, seeing any of it. And so, we can make whatever we want about the timing, but I think what's really important here is that this was this strike was absolutely going to have a huge impact on the economy, and it was the president and the entire administration's priority to get these ports back up and running.
Roderick, was there anything that we haven't covered that we need to as it relates to this strike?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. We're happy that these ports are back open, and we will continue to stand with unions in this administration, and just stand for fair wages in general. And so, I do want to talk about the other great economic news that we have today, which is September's job numbers, showing that that unemployment fell to 4.1%, and that since President Biden took office, 16 million Americans, 16 million new jobs have been created for Americans.
How come that doesn't hit the news as often as it ought to?
Well, I can't speak to that, but Donnie, I know that you are always beating the drum on this, so I appreciate your efforts and always uplifting the accomplishments of this administration.
Good deal. Just want you to know we'll be back in Washington, D.C. at Howard University on October 25th. So if you have any nominations for a Black Wall Street Award, as a matter of fact, Princess is getting her first Black Wall Street Award on Wednesday here in Baltimore. And I can tell you this, Roderica, I've been her mentor for 20 years.
That's amazing.
Going back to
Congratulations.
her days at Goucher College. Yep,
Yeah.
she's still around.
Thank you. Yes, I'm still
Thank
around.
you for joining us, Roderica.
Of course. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. White House lady. Director of Black Media. Let me tell you, during the Trump White House, we got no access. So it's wonderful to be able to call the White House and get someone on the line, And it's even better to get some clarity to the conversation about the strike at the port. I mean, I saw a lady last night in Walmart. She had, and they got those big old shopping carts at Walmart filled with water. And I'm like, damn, lady, you got a spigot in your house. I don't think that water's any damn different. I have not met anybody who can tell me the difference between tap water and bottled water. I don't care what you say. And then a scientist from Georgetown told me, he said, you've been drinking this tap water all your damn life. Okay, let's talk about you, Princess. Entrepreneur, single mother. How in the hell are you doing it?
I'm doing wonderful, by the way. And how am I doing it? Honestly, balance. I am, when it comes to, since the show is about mental health, what I've learned over the years, especially 2 years ago when I got sick post breastfeeding, soon after becoming a new mom, and my son was about, I believe he had just turned 1 year old. What I've learned is treating our bodies holistically. What I've learned, it's important for us to get to the root cause of what we're feeling, what's causing our bodies to feel unwell, and kind of get to the core of problem solving. So I think a lot of times in mental health, we tackle challenges from the exterior. We look at, for example, a mental health therapist, where, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Well, maybe I should see a mental health therapist to help me deal with some of my life's challenges. And then, oftentimes we look to family and friends, but very seldomly do we look internally. And since I got sick 2 years ago, what I learned was the importance of healing our immune systems. That, our gut health is extremely important to our mental health. And when we take care of our bodies by not just eating well, but also, participating in activities that will improve our holistic wellness, we become better people. So for me, my go-to, I hired a company called Golden Health Holistics in Sterling, Virginia, and they specialize in getting to the root cause of autoimmune conditions, of anything that is plaguing one's body so that one can live a happy and holistic lifestyle. I eliminated gluten, sugar, and dairy from my diet. And with the advice and recommendations of Golden Health Holistics, someone very kind to me invested in an infrared sauna so that I could use it and heal my body naturally. So, you know, when it comes to mental health, there are all
How big is
kinds.
the sauna?
Oh, how big is it? It's a sauna that's capable of sitting 2 to 3 people. Um, for example, 2 adults, or if you have a small child and that child is old enough to sit in there for maybe 5 minutes, you can probably use it to read your son or child a book, which I've done with my son Aiden. Sometimes we'll read for 5 minutes as long as he wants to sit in the sauna with me. An infrared sauna is a different type of technology utilized in comparison to a regular sauna, in terms of how it heats up, in terms of what it does for the body. It's a very gentle heat in terms of um, what it provides. It's a gentle heat. It's very relaxing, and I find it to be extremely therapeutic. So,
I
I
love the
know.
sauna, but I never heard of an infrared. I mean, you got me thinking some Navy SEAL Black Ops type of Martin Marietta defense contracting thing. What the hell is the infrared? Why infrared?
The difference between an infrared sauna, let's see, how do I describe it? I think the main difference between an infrared sauna and a traditional sauna is how it heats the body. An infrared sauna heats the body directly without warming the air around you. And also, it typically operates at lower temperatures between 110 degrees and 135 degrees, allowing for longer sessions. So you can actually sit in an infrared sauna, enjoying it for a longer period of time without producing an immediate sweat. You will eventually sweat, but it will not happen right away. A traditional sauna, on the contrary, it uses a heater and rocks to warm the air, which in turn warms your body, which is why when you enter a traditional sauna, you immediately start to sweat. Um, and also, a traditional sauna operates at a much higher temperature than an infrared sauna. So the temperature for a traditional sauna might be around 150 degrees and 195 degrees, which is why most people cannot tolerate a traditional sauna as long as they might be able to tolerate an infrared sauna. So for those reasons, I gravitate to the infrared sauna because it's much gentler on the skin and on the body, and then you don't heat up as fast, which is why I can read my Bible, or I can meditate, or I can read any book I want, while enjoying the benefits of an infrared sauna for healing my immune system.
Well, I'm inspired. I have a $10 bet going on of who's going to be the first to do some exercise. I have not been to the Y. 33rd Street is my shot. The swimming pool and the sauna.
You know what I think about
I
exercise?
wish they were right next door.
That would be nice. So you can just get up and go to the gym and then use the pool.
24-hour day. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would love
that'd be
that.
nice. Yeah,
But then,
convenience at your doorstep.
yeah, I would love that.
In terms of exercise, here's my thoughts about exercise. We live in a country plagued by obesity.
Plagued.
Yeah, by obesity. And too often, I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to lose weight. And there's nothing wrong with losing weight. There's nothing wrong with staying healthy. But I believe if we tackle weights, challenges in small increments, eventually I think we will see more consistent outcomes of return. For example, some people don't love to exercise. So I actually don't always have time to exercise for 1 hour. So I give myself 20 minutes a day. I try to give myself 20 consistent minutes a day of exercise, whether that's walking on the treadmill, walking outside. I feel like 20 minutes is better than 0 minutes. So let me start small and then gradually build up. And then my routine is this. I do 20 minutes of cardio, which is working on a walking or working on a treadmill. I then transition to maybe 5 minutes of planks with a balance of different core exercises. That might mean wall sits, using what I have at home. I have a wall. I can sit on the wall and balance myself up. It doesn't have to be expensive. And maybe squats. I keep it very easy. And then, if I'm able to go to a gym or if I have access to an infrared sauna, which I do, I tend to use an infrared sauna. But the YMCA, oh my goodness, if you're a mom or a dad with a young child, the YMCA offers a program for people to drop their kids off for 2 hours at a time as part of their membership. And so you can drop your kid off to play and while you exercise, which I think is a great program that the YMCA offers.
How much is this infrared sauna?
The infrared sauna, well, that's a good question. Let's talk about cost. So in Maryland, there are wellness companies that provide membership opportunities for an infrared sauna. So like I've come across some, I believe in Harford County, and they might offer sessions at maybe $25, three infrared sessions at $25 for the month. I've seen those advertised. But generally speaking, an infrared sauna, if a person wants to own it, the costs vary. I've seen infrared saunas, under $1,000 sold online at companies like Amazon. However, I tend to have and gravitate to a company called Sunlighten brand. It's just reliable, and I think they advertise their costs. They don't even advertise their costs. You actually have to call them to find out what their costs are. But when I called them, a solo bed, which is a type of sauna that you can transport with you, it starts at like $3,000. So it's a one-time payment of $3,000, or you can finance it, and then it goes up by price depending on what one wants to buy, whether it's a 2-seater cabin or a 4-seater cabin. But you pay it one time and it's yours for the rest of your life. It's definitely considered a luxury item. I mean, and it shouldn't be, because sadly, like when I got sick, the doctors told me that what I was dealing with was not treatable, that what I was dealing with, they thought it was an autoimmune condition. And so when I hired Golden Health Holistics taught me that I have 0 autoimmune markers, which was a red flag for me, because I learned we put too much confidence in our doctors and we don't do enough of the mental health homework for ourselves. And so shortly after hiring Golden Health Holistics, I discovered that I needed to make a change. Either I was going to invest in traditional medicine, which was going to cost me money anyway. And as we know, prescription medication is not cheap. It adds up over time. And so I thought to myself, I'm either going to spend the money on traditional medicine, or I'm going to spend the money on a holistic alternative. So I decided to go the holistic route. And instead of giving my money to the pharmaceutical companies, I decided to give my money to Sunlighten Sauna or to Golden Health Holistics, because I felt like at least in the end, I will be able to target my body holistically, getting to the root cause of what's plaguing my body versus treating the surface, because we know treating the surface never works. We need to get to the root cause of what's bothering us, what's causing our emotional distress, or what's causing our pain, or what's causing these autoimmune conditions. And I do believe with certain autoimmune conditions, there's often a root cause, but we just need the right support systems, and we need the right companies that will help us on those journeys. So I know Sunlighten works, and I know Golden Health Holistics works for anyone
Are you
interested.
saying sunlighting?
Sunlighten. 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 Sunlighten.
I've learned something I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, such as athletes, will oftentimes incorporate an infrared sauna into their programs because it provides a source of healing post-workout on the football field, for example. Oftentimes, people dealing with heart conditions um, have trouble sleeping at night. So, incorporating an infrared sauna helps to relax the body, helps to relax the mind, and sometimes will help you to sleep better at night. So, those dealing with heart challenges or stress, an infrared sauna can help balance those stress mechanisms. Um, Lyme disease. People dealing with Lyme, Maryland has an overpopulation of deer, and oftentimes people are living with
I didn't know that. We don't see a lot of them in 21217.
Oh, okay. Well, we see a lot of them near Goucher College when I attended. We see a lot of them in Harford County. We see a lot of them in certain other parts of the state. Maybe not so much in Baltimore City, but I definitely see a lot of them in other parts of the state, like Baltimore County and Harford County. And this year, I saw a few, not as many as I used to see, but definitely there's a population of deer, and not just deer. There are oftentimes insects that carry tick-borne pathogens. So
Like
we can
ticks.
ticks and tick-borne pathogens are very real. So I bring all of this up, although not to get overly scientific, but an infrared sauna for those living with Lyme can help kill off those pathogens so that the body can heal itself naturally. The symptoms of Lyme can result in pain in the body, debilitating symptoms, leaving people um, unable to sometimes work. So having an infrared sauna or access to one, even if it's just going to a wellness center that provides it, can be a real source of relief for some people.
So the other thing I wanted to talk with you about is managing the stress of entrepreneurship.
Yes, that's
As
a
an
good.
entrepreneur, you eat what you kill.
hmm
It's no check coming at the end of the week. It's no 9 to 5, no 40 hours. It's that security is gone. It's a total leap of faith.
It really is. My thoughts about entrepreneurship is we fall down, but we get back up.
You better,
Every
if you
single
want to
day.
eat.
It's true. Every single day, I have to remind myself to be consistent. And on the days I'm not consistent, I still have to speak words of life into my life and to my heart. And I have to remember the why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, here's what I do. What I do is I have a goal for myself. It started with I try to work a set number of hours each and every day on my business. When I was a mom and balancing the role of homemaker, getting my son to improve his speech and language receptors, my goal was to invest 1 hour to 2 hours per day, every single day, on just starting my business. The challenge with entrepreneurship is oftentimes we become inconsistent and we stop working. We lose distraction, we get distracted or we get discouraged because things aren't happening fast enough or the money's not coming in right away. And so as an entrepreneur, I always have to figure out a way to pivot. I'm constantly pivoting as an entrepreneur. And what gives me balance is one, having a strong mentorship, having strong support systems and role models and resources. So when I have a question, I reach out to my group to get answers. When I need help, I reach out to my group to figure out, okay, how do I tackle this problem? If it's a marketing question, I look to marketing experts. If it's a question about, anything in particularly for what I'm working on, I always try to look to the experts. I think as entrepreneurs, we have to remember that we are constantly learning, and it's okay to be constantly learning. And in order to reach the mountaintop, it means a steadfast dedication to one's end goal, with also a combination of mental health practices. Having a wellness or a spiritual life, I think, is important. Whatever that looks like for one person might look different for another person, but it's important to be grounded, and it's important to remember that you are enough, and what you're working on will eventually progress into something profitable as long as you continue to pivot.
Give me a success story. Something that you've done that has really helped improve your mental health trajectory.
A success story for me would be, okay, so last year I started on a journey of taking care of my body, getting to the root cause of what my body was dealing with, which I talked about earlier. But along those lines of taking care of the body, as we talked about in terms of being an entrepreneur, it also meant investing in my business in a different kind of way. So I'm a voiceover artist. The name of my company is Voiceover Inspires Entertainment. And in order for me to succeed as a voiceover artist, I had to create marketable audio demos, marketable demonstrations of my voice to share with the general public. And that required an investment in myself. It was not cheap by any means. It meant coaching with other people in the business like J. Michael Collins, Elaine Clark, really investing in myself. And once I made the decision that I wasn't going to let cost get in the way of my growth, doors started to open up for me. So when I finished my 4 voiceover demos, one is still pending, but when I finished a majority of my voiceover demos in March or April of 2024, I was then able to book work with companies in order to do voiceover projects for Tabitha Brown, who has a show on Tab Time. And
The Tabitha Brown,
yeah, I did it. I did a tribute honoring Tabitha Brown.
the social media legend.
Yes. Yes.
She's a beast.
She is. She's an inspirational woman. She's breaking down barriers. She's amazing in her own right. She's an entrepreneur and she's a very hard worker. So I did a tribute honoring Tabitha Brown, Pinky Cole, Robin Washington. It was an event called Escalate Her. And so I used my voice to give a tribute to these amazing women. And you can go to my website to listen to it. It's www.princesswevoiceover, all one word.com. And, stories like that are what have, in terms of my mental health, in terms of me continuing on the journey, I learned I have something to sell. I have a voice that I can make money from. Not everyone has that. And I have a gift. And so using my gift to make a living for myself, whether it's easy or not, it's something I've started. It's something that I've already started to see rewards from. iHeartRadio is one of my clients too. So, taking care of the body allows you to work for yourself in a different capacity so that you're well taken care of on both ends.
Any advice on one's circle?
Yeah. Here's the advice I get. I don't know if it was from Donnie. But Donnie, you gave me some really good advice recently. And you said, surround yourself with people who are more successful than you. And it stuck to me. And I think that what makes it good advice is this.
Because they say, look, if you know 6 broke people, you're going to be the 7th.
Yeah. Surrounding yourself with people who, one, respect your business, who respect what you're working toward. It doesn't make sense to surround yourself with someone who is going to be negative talking, disparaging, any negative word, you name it. Name calling. It doesn't make sense to surround ourselves with those kinds of people because at the end of the day, one, they're not good for the immune system. Why? Because it starts to wear on one's mental health. It becomes emotionally distressing, a negative thought that you just really don't need. And when you're building a business or you're trying to maintain your business or you're trying to pay your bills, it's really important to surround yourself with people who believe in you, with people who are going to tell you how they keep their businesses moving so you can keep yours moving too. Or two, people who are going to uplift you when things aren't going the way you hope them to.
Yes.
So my thing is, if I got a billionaire friend, I want to be sitting next to my billionaire friend. If I got a millionaire friend, I want to be sitting next to my millionaire friend. I want to be sitting next to the friends who are going to shoulder me when I need shouldering. Because let's face it, my grandmother used to say it all the time. These are tough times. And we are all trying to survive. But the key to survival is a fervent dedication to mental wellness. It's whether it's what we do all do it differently. Whether it's spiritual, for some it's prayer, for some it's reading the Bible, for some it's exercising, for some it's like I said, the infrared sauna, for some it's Gupta. It's finding ways.
Ho. It's what?
Oh, let me talk about Gupta. So you know what? Talk about mental
It
health.
sounds like it's Indian.
It is. So check this out. Oh my goodness. I consider myself a diverse mind, meaning I gravitate to a plethora of cultural resources. If it can improve my outcome of life, I'll listen, I'll read, and I'll do my research. So when I was on my journey about 2 years ago for getting my mental wellness in shape, for healing my body so that I could be the best mother possible, one of my good friends told me about a company called the Gupta Program. And I thought, well, what is the Gupta Program? And I was very skeptical at first. Here's all it is. You can Google it. It's really just that, the Gupta Program. And what it does is it provides brain retraining. It trains you so that you can help heal your amygdala, which is located in your brain, and essentially retrain your brain to better handle stress. I bring all of this up because, so as people, we turn to exercise. We turn to physical therapists, which are great. We turn to all kinds of therapists, but very rarely do we think about how our brains has processed stress, and how to overcome it. So, Gupta, here's what it did for me. So I actually signed up for the free version of Gupta before signing up for the yearly subscription. And I was actually impressed with what I learned. I learned that the amygdala, when we get
I
extremely
ain't never
stressed.
heard of that before. Princess, spell that for me.
Okay, let me spell it for you. And I'm going to make sure I'm spelling it right. It's spelled A as in apple, M as in Mary, Y as in yo-yo, G as in goat, D as in dog, A as in apple, L as in lion, A as in apple. Amygdala. AMYGDA.
I see it.
LA.
I never heard of it.
So the amygdala is a small almond-shaped part of the brain that plays a key role in processing emotions, especially fear, anxiety, and rage. It also helps with how we handle, any kind of triggers or flight or fight responses or emotional learning. It's a key function for how the body processes emotions.
It's
And
in the center of the brain.
huh?
It's in the center and the base of the brain.
Yes, it is. And so check this out. A lot of us, if we just let's go to the foundation. A lot of us are dealing with post-traumatic stressors.
Yeah.
Whether it's from childhood, whether it's someone that hurt our feelings. Many of us we all have emotions, and we're all trying to figure out better ways to handle those emotions. So what Gupta taught me was, think about an experience when you've fallen down and you've bruised your arm or something. Like you get a big cut on your knee. Big cut on your knee, big cut on your arm, it's the same thing. You get a wound. You get a wound on your body and it's bleeding. Well, the body sends, in order to heal that wound, will oftentimes send inflammatory signals to the body in response to that wound that needs healing. Okay, so think about emotional stress. When we become too emotionally stressed, our body reads that emotional stress like an open wound, constantly in need of healing. And until we figure out a way to not just band-aid it like we would do a regular wound, until we figure out a way to nip emotional stress in the butt, our amygdala will constantly go into overdrive, sending stress signals throughout our entire bodies.
Like 911, 911,
Yes.
Mayday, Mayday.
Yes, causing problems like heart disease, cancer, and a whole host of other bodily malfunctions. So when we retrain our brains, we essentially
Give the
retrain our
amygdala a
bodies.
break.
We give the amygdala a break, which is why I'm a big advocate for places that provide functional and a holistic healing, because I believe that our bodies were designed to be able to heal itself when we have the right nutritional supports. Too many of us are not eating the right foods, and we don't know what to eat because our doctors, unfortunately, aren't performing the right test, or
And
or we're not asking for the test we need because we just don't know. But when I hired Golden Health Holistics and I paid for them to study my body, I think I paid for a mineral study, I paid for food study, I paid for several studies so that they could tell me what I needed more of nutritionally and what I didn't need. And the study was very educational and enlightening to the point where it allowed me to purchase the right amount of supplements to eat the right foods my body needed. But let's go back to that amygdala. When we eat well and we take care of our bodies nutritionally, the amygdala starts to work better. We start to better handle emotions. And then now we're going to add on layers. And now we sign up for a program like the Gupta program if we're interested. Then we can then better target the amygdala. Or then now let's take it a step further. Now I want to heal my immune system on a different level, because anytime you heal your emotions, you're indirectly treating your immune system to better handle invasion or outside pathogens that could potentially make us sick. So it's really important when you look at the holistic framework of our bodies that we target not just the outer skin, which is losing weight, but we also target the inner person, which is the emotions. And then we also look at resources like Sunlighten or Golden Health Holistics that are going to improve us and make us that much stronger.
this has been enlightening.
Yeah, it enlightened me too when I learned. And what I like about the Gupta program, which I will admit, I did my research, so I read the reviews about criticism, or some people criticize the Gupta program for different reasons I won't go into, and then some people rave about it. So it may or may not be for everyone. However, my approach to new information is to study the new information. And even if I walk away with one beneficial opportunity, then I've spent my money well. And so for me, the Gupta program taught me a lot. It really, really taught me about how to better handle emotional stress. We all have heard of the term meditation, and the Gupta program does incorporate some meditation. And let's face it, I understand that meditation is not for everyone, so I don't preach it. However, I tend to gravitate to both. I do a little bit of prayer, do a little bit of meditation. I gravitate to positive influences, and I think it's important for all of us to find out how we can heal both internally and externally, whatever we gravitate to, because we all need it. For example, the crime on the street, us hurting one another, that for me is all that's all a symptom of people needing to find better ways of healing their emotions, because hurting people is not normal. Hatred is not normal.
Princess, this sounds like you ought to start your own show on this network. I mean, what's the holdup?
Thank you, Donnie. I know I need to start my own show. What's the holdup? Well, I just need to develop the plan and get to work, right?
Good deal. How can people get in touch with you, Princess? You got to come back.
Thank you so much, Donnie, for having me. It's been a true pleasure. To reach me, you can send me an email at princesswevoiceover@gmail.com. That's Princess WE voiceover VOICEOVER@gmail.com. And my website is princesswevoiceover.com, or it's also voinspires.com. I would say email or website is probably the quickest way to reach me.
Well, let me tell you something. I ain't checking email too early in the morning. So
Okay. Let me also give you my phone number for those who want to call or text me, because I'm very, very reachable. You can also call me at 443 593 5415. 443 593 5415.
Now, if I know somebody is giving me an ad, I will be checking email, but call me on the phone.
Yeah, I get a little bit of both because sometimes with my voiceover work, I might be in a studio session. And so sometimes when it comes to business stuff, it's helpful for me to get an email because then I can go back to that email for business stuff. So, like you said, if someone's sending you an ad, yeah, definitely send an email. So I say a little bit of
No,
both,
call me.
or
Call me.
call
I want
me.
to get your ad
Yeah.
up right away. Call me.
Yes. Yes. So if you need to reach me, feel free to call me, text me, email me. I actually get the notifications for my email. So either way, you can always reach me. And I have another email. It's princesswe@pwevo.com. I'm very accessible. You can Google me on the internet, Princess We Voiceover, Princess Williams Evans. Um, so I enjoyed today's show. It's not something that is oftentimes talked about in a lot of
I've learned
communities.
something. Amygdala and the Gupta program
Yeah, and an infrared sauna. Mhm.
and infrared sauna.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad we had the conversation at least to, introduce these topics and ideas to people who might be interested. And while some of the ideas we talked about might seem unreachable, all of these programs do provide discounted options. So, like I mentioned earlier, the Gupta program, I think you can sign up for free for 3 months, something like that. And then with the infrared sauna, just Google infrared saunas in your local town to see if there's a company that provides a membership at an affordable rate. If you want to own one, excuse me, if you would like to own one, you can also buy one from Sunlighten, Sunlighten. Um,
Hey, they need to be sponsoring your show because you've been giving them mad plugs. I think you
yeah,
need to hit them up for a sponsorship.
I think you're right.
Damn
I should.
Skippy, I'm right.
I think I should. Thank you so much for the advice. Totally appreciate it.
Good
As
deal.
always,
Glad
thank you,
to-
Donnie, for inviting me to be a part of today's show.
Thank you for being a part of the Be More News family. Longer than anyone, except maybe Catalina Bird. She started when she was 16 in the 90s, mid 90s. But you're the second oldest.
Thank you. I was a
Second
baby
oldest
then.
daughter of Be More
Thank you.
News.
In the 90s, I was a little baby.
Up to day, down tomorrow, do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Remember, if I think better, I do better. Good afternoon, world.
Good afternoon.